I wonder what would have happened to us had we not gone out when we did.
Our security was being pulled. Everyone in the world knew where we were.
I said, we need to get out of here.
Archie and Lilibet do not carry royal blood. The cold, almost cruel declaration made by King Charles III himself did not merely signal the end of a dark chapter in the monarchy's history, but also ripped off the carefully preserved mask Meghan Markle had worn before the entire world for years. After spending so long crafting the image of a victim pushed to the sidelines, Meghan now must confront an undeniable reality. Every title, every privilege, and every ounce of trust she had once earned stemmed from a lie once skillfully hidden in plain sight. Meghan's hands trembled uncontrollably as she instinctively turned toward Harry, the man who once promised she would never have to face anything alone, desperately clinging to him for some form of support, hoping for even the smallest gesture to hold on to. But Harry, his face darkened by sorrow, simply lowered his head in silence, uttering not a single word. In that very moment, Meghan realized it was truly over. Her tears fell not just from the sting of the truth being exposed, but from the heartbreak of seeing the man who once left an entire royal legacy behind for her, now choose silence at the most brutal moment of judgment. A heavy question hung over the room, one no one dared to speak aloud. Was Prince Harry truly just a man manipulated, or was he in fact a willing piece in a premeditated scheme? And if the two children do not carry Windsor blood, then who is their real father? All of those answers will gradually be revealed in this video. 1. A sudden letter summoning Harry's family home. During the long stretch of time living in California, Harry and Meghan gradually learned to adapt to a life no longer tied to the dazzling glow of royalty or to the familiar embrace of family. Every letter Harry sent back to the palace was met with silence. His calls were never answered. Since officially stepping down from senior royal duties, the couple had not once received a personal signal from Harry's father, King Charles, who was also the grandfather of Archie and Lilibet. Bit by bit, that silence hardened into an invisible wall, fully separating what once was called family from the realm of royal authority. So when an unexpected message came through with clear confirmation from the royal household, concise and abrupt, their astonishment was impossible to hide. Father wishes to see you. Bring Meghan and the children. This is a matter of utmost importance. Not a single further explanation accompanied King Charles's message. Meghan turned to her husband, eyes filled with suspicion. Is it real? She asked. Harry stared at the screen, heart pounding. This was the first time his father had reached out of his own volition. But for what reason? Reconciliation, forgiveness? Or to confront something no one had foreseen? After a long, heavy night of deliberation, they decided to return to the United Kingdom, bringing both children with them. Archie was now 6, observant, and somewhat quiet. Lilibet was younger, still innocent, like a breeze caught in the eye of a family storm. Meghan packed quietly, stealing occasional glances at Harry, as if searching for reassurance, but even he wasn't sure if he had any to offer. What if he just wants to see the children? She whispered anxiously. Harry shook his head gently. I don't know, but we're not letting them go alone. When their plane landed on the runway of a royal airbase, there was no guard of honor, no ceremonial welcome. Instead, a discreet black car awaited, transporting the family through London's misty streets straight toward Windsor Castle. No one provided an explanation. The driver uttered only one sentence. The Westminster room is ready. Please follow me. They were led through a side entrance, avoiding the grand halls they once knew so well. Meghan gripped Archie's hand tightly, while Harry carried a sleeping Lilibet against his shoulder. As they entered the vast antique chamber, there was no throne in sight, nor was King Charles standing at the end of the room. Instead, a long table stood at its center, and behind it sat 3 men in black robes, clearly high-ranking legal officials. Before them lay a thick stack of documents bearing a bold title, Henry, Meghan, Archie, Lilibet, Special Dossier from the Royal Council. Meghan halted in her tracks. Is this an internal tribunal? She asked softly. A middle-aged man, likely the royal adjudicator, rose and addressed them with solemn formality. Yes, by direct order of His Majesty. This is a private hearing regarding royal status and media impact, not only concerning yourselves, but directly relating to your descendants. A door behind them creaked open. King Charles entered, appearing older and more worn than the last time they had seen him. In that moment, he was no longer merely a king. He stood there as a father, a grandfather bearing the weight of matters far greater than his title. When his gaze landed on the two children, he paused briefly. Then his expression turned stern. "Thank you for coming," he said gently. "I need you here because it's time the children knew exactly where they belong." A chill crept down Meghan's spine. This was not a reunion, nor a gesture of forgiveness. This was a family tribunal held under the authority of the Royal Council, where they were to be questioned, evaluated. Not just for what they had revealed in interviews and memoirs, or during their many controversial statements, but because they had pulled Archie and Lilibet away from the royal orbit. A path the monarchy now appeared determined to sever entirely. Amid the soft rustle of turning pages surrounded by the ancient silence of stone walls steeped in centuries of tradition, something unspoken weighed heavily in the air. Why now? Why did the children's presence matter so urgently? Was the king preparing a significant change in the line of succession? Or was it simply fear? Fear of losing the last remaining tie to a future generation? Behind King Charles's composed but wordless stare, something larger, deeper was quietly being set into motion. 2. The Royal Council shockwaves from the DNA test results. The atmosphere inside Windsor Castle's ancient Grand Hall felt frozen in time. The summer wind could not penetrate the thick stone walls, yet a chill crept through the room, crawling down every spine present. A hearing without precedent, never covered by the press, absent of any camera lens, was now unfolding under emergency protocol with all senior members of the royal family in attendance. There was no pomp, no ceremonial elegance. This was not a celebration. This was an interrogation, and the two being summoned before the Royal Council were none other than Prince Harry and his wife Meghan Markle. Presiding over the session was Lord Alistair Cromwell, the veteran judge, renowned for handling matters tied to royal honor. He entered with a face like carved granite, as if fully aware that what was about to be revealed would shake the very foundation of the British monarchy. Cromwell began the hearing with a statement as firm as steel driven into stone. Duke of Sussex. Duchess Meghan, today you stand before the Royal Council to answer questions of honesty, honor, and bloodline values that have upheld the British throne for centuries. The words landed like a splash of ice water, waking the entire room. Meghan sat upright, dressed in a simple yet precisely tailored black gown that hinted at deliberate restraint. Harry sat beside her, eyes cast downward, his face tight with unease. Both knew this was no longer a family matter. This was a decisive moment, one that could determine their future, their reputation, even their place in history. Before Meghan could respond, a large screen lit up in the center of the room. A series of videos began to play. Meghan, heavily pregnant, bending down to pick something up, twisting her torso with ease, even twerking playfully during a live stream. Cromwell enunciated clearly, each syllable like a chisel. These images were released publicly by yourself. Our medical panel, including obstetricians and motion analysts, have unanimously concluded no woman in her 8th month of pregnancy could move in such ways if she were truly carrying a child. Whispers rippled across the chamber. Royal family members murmured in stunned confusion. Meghan remained silent, her hands clenched tightly. Then came the next set of images comparing the shape of her baby bump on different days, at times perfectly round, other times lopsided or even mysteriously flat, as if deflated. Judge Cromwell needed say no more. Instead, he asked coldly, "Madam, are these biological changes or the result of a fabricated device?" A prosecutor from the council stepped forward, presenting a thick portfolio of evidence compiled and analyzed over years by the online public, documenting everything from inconsistent belly movement, improper posture for pregnant women, and even moments where Meghan's bump seemed to fold unnaturally, exposing the rim of what experts identified as a professional prosthetic belly, commonly referred to in the film industry as a moon bump. He added, "Some footage even shows the bump folding in half as you sit." Tension in the hall thickened. The prosecutor placed a heavy file on the judge's desk. Cromwell opened it and pulled several sheets showing clearly printed DNA results. The session took a sharp turn as a forensic staff member entered, carrying a red sealed envelope marked "Top Secret, Royal Security Level 1." Cromwell stood staring directly at Harry and Meghan, who were now gripping each other's hands tightly in fear. His voice rang out with clarity, piercing through the air like a blade slashing through years of carefully crafted illusion. After testing the DNA of Lilibet, the council has moved to reopen the genetic case of Archie, the firstborn child, once hailed as a symbol of modern progress within the British monarchy. The entire chamber held its breath as Cromwell retrieved a second dossier from the envelope. His hand trembled not from fear, but from barely restrained outrage. He read on, voice steady but heavy with weight. Results from 3 independent laboratories in the United Kingdom, Switzerland and Canada under tight supervision by Royal Legal Counsel, and the Health Board confirm. Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor bears no genetic connection to Prince Harry and contains no trace of Windsor lineage whatsoever. An invisible detonation ripped through the hearing. The most powerful faces of the monarchy, from Crown Prince William, Princess Kate to Buckingham Palace's senior advisors, lowered their heads in stunned disbelief and rising fury. They had been deceived for years by a couple who had once claimed to stand for truth, freedom, and compassion. Cromwell slammed the folder onto the table. For the first time, he raised his voice. Not one, but 2 children, both proven not to be of royal blood. 2 innocent lives thrust into a false fairy tale used as shields to mislead the public craft, a disowned royal family narrative, sign multi-million-dollar deals, and preach morality to the world. He turned to Meghan, eyes steely cold. You turned your body into a stage. From the unusually high bump in Australia to the visible padding lines while bending in New York, every camera flash became a scene in your performance. And now, the truth can no longer be denied. Neither child is the biological offspring of Prince Harry. Whom are you deceiving, Mrs. Markle, the royal family, or the entire human race? No words emerged. Meghan's face turned pale, but she tried to speak, her voice soft but clear. I believe there may have been a mix-up. It was a chaotic time. I gave birth under extreme stress, surrounded by media pressure. Perhaps the hospital. Cromwell cut her off, eyes drilling into hers. You chose Portland Private Hospital, where no royal doctors were permitted. No independent monitors allowed, and which refused to provide birthing records when requested. After birth, you declined DNA verification, a procedure every royal couple willingly accepts to preserve transparency. So I ask why Meghan fell silent. Harry finally spoke, voice hoarse. We didn't trust the palace at that time. Everything was overwhelming. We only wanted to protect our children. Cromwell's tone now sliced like sharpened glass. Based on all presented evidence, the council concludes the child is not a legitimate royal heir. This nullifies any titles, privileges, and protections previously granted, awarded under false pretense of royal bloodline. This is no longer a family issue. This is a betrayal of the crown. Meghan's composure began to crumble. Her eyes darted frantically around the room as if searching for a lifeline in a chamber thick with silent judgment. But she knew one more mistake and the path back would vanish, forever. 3. Meghan breaks down in court. Harry's silence is haunting. Within the magnificent courtroom where warm, golden light cascaded down the towering ancient vaults, Meghan stood alone, fragile and trembling uncontrollably. When the judge turned his gaze to Harry and uttered the final question, Your Grace, is there anything further you wish to add? The entire chamber seemed to freeze. No movement, no sound. Only the figure of a man, once a symbol of defiance within the royal family, now silently bowing his head without a single utterance. Harry remained silent. He didn't look at Meghan. That silence carried more weight than any accusation. Meghan turned toward him, her eyes pleading desperately, seeking a reassuring word, a tiny gesture, anything to cling to amid the storm closing in. But he remained unmoved. That bowed head, rather than a sign of respect, felt like the most crushing verdict Meghan had ever received. She began to breathe rapidly, stepping back, her voice choked with raw emotion. You promised. You said you'd always protect me. Those words weren't for the judge or the press. They were meant only for the man who once vowed to give up everything for her. A single tear slid down Meghan's cheek, not because of the court's ruling, but because the person she trusted most had turned away. In her mind, replayed every memory, the grand wedding at St. George's Chapel. Harry's hand gripping hers in front of millions, the vows to love and protect her in all circumstances. But now the present was beyond anyone's imagination, and the one person who could still stand by her was sinking into silence. The judge spoke again, sharper this time. "Duke of Sussex, do you have any response to the serious allegations just presented?" Without hesitation, Harry lifted his head, his eyes vacant, and answered coolly, "I have nothing further to say." One sentence straight, final, slashing the fragile last thread that held them together. The courtroom reeled. Meghan covered her mouth, stifling a sob. She turned away, but too late. The cameras had captured it all, the image of a woman collapsing not just under accusations of deception, but abandoned by the man who once rode storms with her, now leaving her defenseless. Harry didn't move toward her, didn't comfort her, didn't even glance her way. He sat motionless as if witnessing someone else's trial. Meghan, once a force capable of shaking the world, now stood diminished alone amid the forces of law, media, and her husband's indifference. No helping hand extended, no shield of love transcending tradition. Instead, she faced the cold stares of the Royal Council. Harry's silence cutting like a blade, and the barely contained anger of King Charles ready to explode. Each question fired at her like a whip. Did you conceal the true identity of the children's father? Did you exploit royal status to secure media contracts? What was your actual motive for marriage? Meghan staggered hearing them. Yet what nearly brought her down wasn't the courtroom scrutiny, it was the absence of the one voice meant to defend her. She inhaled sharply, her voice catching in her throat. "You promised you'd speak up for me." That single sentence, soft yet heavy like a sledgehammer, froze the room. Everyone could feel the anguish, something unquantifiable by legal code, but unmistakably betrayal. She collapsed, not from legal pressure, but from the merciless silence of the man she trusted most. The camera panned to Harry, his eyes, downcast shoulders, drawn inward, shrinking into himself as if to vanish into his chair. Meghan watched him, her gaze nailing his back as if to ask, "Why won't you speak?" But no answer came, no nod, no small gesture, only the judge's gavel striking, cracking the frozen atmosphere and reminding everyone that this was a courtroom, not a confessional. What lingered in the hearts of watchers wasn't drama, it was a deep sorrow. A union once hailed as unbreakable, built on vows, and the image of a modern royal couple was now fracturing in public view. Harry's silence, lasting mere minutes, left an echo that couldn't be erased. Had he chosen justice or his wife? That question pierced not only Meghan's heart, but Harry's as well. Meghan steadied herself. Her face remained dignified, but cracks showed in her eyes. This wasn't just a legal battle. It was a cruel test of a marriage displayed to the world. Could their love survive under pressure amidst millions of spectators, and most devastatingly, their own silence? Could Meghan stay strong, keep protecting their image? Or would she this time speak out not for honor but for herself? Social media erupted as the leaked video of Meghan's tears spread. History repeating itself, one caption read, "The new Diana claimed another." But not everyone sympathized. Critics accused her of emotional manipulation, claiming it was an Oscar-worthy performance. The snide headlines and skeptical tweets only fanned the fire. Images of Princess Diana circulated widely the moment she walked out of court. That lonely gaze and Harry's own words from years ago, "I will not let them do to my wife what they did to my mother." Yet when Meghan wept during this hearing and Harry stayed silent, the world grasped a bitter truth. Meghan stood alone within the marriage she fought for. If at this solemn, pivotal moment, Harry could not stand by his wife, then what future did they truly have? The unforgiving courtroom lights did more than expose Meghan's pain. They revealed the growing gulf between her and the man who once held her hand across every prejudice. And when the silence between them rang louder than any voice or verdict, another deeper conversation began, one richer, rawer, and carrying a legacy far beyond anything he or she had ever created before. As Meghan stood still in the courtroom, a single tear rolled down her cheek. The world no longer saw a noble duchess. They saw a woman abandoned in her moment of greatest vulnerability. And Harry, once celebrated as a protector, as a love beyond boundaries, sat quietly while the burden weighed on her shoulders alone. The chance to stand by her he let slip away, in silence. 4. King Charles declares the revocation of titles and complete severance. When the judge gently closed the thick dossier containing the entire investigation, the hearing fell into a heavy silence. The atmosphere in the marble chamber where the royal council was gathered seemed to congeal. This was no solemn ceremony. This was an unprecedented historic moment in the annals of the British monarchy. King Charles III, his face taut and his gaze as cold as steel, slowly rose from the throne. His ermine-lined royal cloak rustled softly behind him, but the words he spoke were frozen and terrifyingly authoritative. Based on all the evidence presented, from the DNA analysis results to the deliberate attempts to deceive concerning lineage, I, as the King of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, hereby decree. He paused a long beat that felt like 1,000 weights suspended in midair. Everyone held their breath. As the monarchy will proceed with the immediate revocation of all titles, privileges, and royal status granted to Harry and Meghan since 2020. This includes the Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles, the use of any royal style in public engagements, and every privilege related to royal assets or entitlements. Meghan's face drained of color. Harry flinched, about to speak, yet before he could, King Charles raised his hand in blunt refusal, cutting off any defense. And that is not all. The king continued, his voice now betraying the simmering rage beneath his calm exterior. The 2 children known to the world as Archie and Lilibet will be removed from the royal line of succession. Their names will be erased from the Windsor family registry. From this moment forward, they are no longer royals, hold no claim to inheritance, and bear no bloodline ties to the throne. That declaration tore through the room like invisible lightning. Meghan gasped for breath. Harry, the former prince, now a mere remnant of his former self, sat motionless, head bowed, his neck flushed red, silent. King Charles advanced a few steps, his gaze unwavering, and spoke with deadly clarity, each word echoing like thunder in a clear sky. Fabricating lineage and concealing the children's true origins is one of the gravest betrayals the monarchy has ever endured. This is not merely deceit. It is a conspiracy to manipulate succession, to exploit royal blood for personal gain, and to abuse the public's trust. The entire council was stunned into silence. The Countess of Wessex wiped away tears, her face dazed. Princess Anne ground her teeth, gripping her chair arms. William, now Prince of Wales, regarded his brother with a completely icy expression. Behind him, Princess Kate held their youngest child tightly, as if protecting her from the falling fragments of a home, once called the royal household. From this moment, King Charles said, voice resolute and devoid of emotion, Buckingham Palace will terminate all ties with Harry and Meghan. They are forbidden from residing in royal palaces representing the monarchy or receiving any royal financial support. The titles Duke and Duchess of Sussex are permanently revoked. Suddenly, Meghan sprang to her feet and in the hushed courtroom cried out, I am still a mother of Windsor children. They carry royal blood. Her voice shook with desperation. The presiding judge merely looked down at the DNA report before him, then spoke calmly. Ma'am, neither child has any genetic lineage evidence from Prince Harry. Both results confirm they are not his biological children. That statement dropped like a lead weight, no further words left to cling to. Meghan collapsed back into her seat, shattered. Harry, though he had anticipated the truth, could do nothing but bow his head and cover his face in silent anguish. Yet King Charles remained unmoved. He stared directly at the 2 before him, not as beloved public figures, but as individuals who had violated every boundary of trust and pronounced each chilling word deliberate. You have turned the monarchy into a stage, but this is not Hollywood. This is bloodline. It is honor. It is duty. Things you both chose to abandon in pursuit of television contracts, stage lights, and artificial adoration. After a heartbeat, he raised his hand and firmly commanded royal guards, escort them out of this chamber, immediately, permanently. Soldiers entered but did not physically touch them. Meghan brushed Harry's hand aside when he tried to steady her. They walked out like 2 lost shadows through the corridor that once echoed with trumpet fanfares, now suffocated by oppressive silence. Once hailed as the modern-era power couple, they were now expelled from the very monarchy they once declared they had withdrawn from. And amidst the silence, a single question resurfaced in every observer's mind. If these children are not Harry's biological offspring, then who is their father? No answer was given. No one dared ask. Yet everyone understood the fairy tale that once moved the world had truly ended with a conclusion none dared to imagine. 5 when the final door closed and never opened again. Less than 15 minutes after Meghan and Harry exited the royal courtroom at Buckingham Palace, the world was hurled into a storm. Meghan Markle, the woman once hailed as a symbol of justice and progress, had deceived the entire global public for years. Throughout that time, she had adamantly insisted that her 2 children, Archie and Lilibet, were legitimate heirs of the Windsor royal lineage. But the recently disclosed secret DNA tests revealed the absolute opposite. Neither child bore any blood ties to the royal family. This was not merely a deception. It was a betrayal on a national scale, perhaps even a historic one. The outrage spread like wildfire across a parched plain. On social media platforms, millions of voices erupted in unison. Meghan was branded a cold-blooded schemer, a professional actress in a real-life tragedy, and the woman who manipulated the history of England. The public trust once granted to the tale of a biracial duchess cast out by the British monarchy was now exposed as a carefully crafted humanitarian performance, one designed to capture emotion, seize power, and climb to fame. In the United Kingdom, the fury became uncontainable. Spontaneous protests erupted across key locations in front of Buckingham Palace, at the royal courts, even outside the couple's private estate in California. Signs were raised high with blood-red slogans, "No blood, no throne." Meghan, the manipulator, power must not come from lies. The demands rang out like war drums: remove the children from the line of succession, revoke every title and privilege ever granted. To the people, this betrayal was no longer a private family matter, it had become a national disgrace. What chilled the public even more was not the DNA results themselves, but what lay behind them. According to insider sources within the royal family, Meghan had repeatedly exerted pressure to have Archie and Lilibet listed in the official line of succession, something unprecedented for children with no royal blood. In the public eye, her marriage to Prince Harry was no longer seen as a love story that overcame barriers, but rather as a calculated ticket used to force entry into the inner architecture of the United Kingdom's highest power. Her previous claims about equality and fighting racism now appeared nothing more than a fragile veil masking a cold, terrifying ambition. This collapse set off an irreversible domino effect. Major media conglomerates and global brands moved swiftly to sever all ties with Meghan and Harry. Netflix was the first to release an official statement. It terminated a multi-million-dollar deal and removed all related content from its platform. Spotify didn't just cancel the podcast contract, it issued a forceful declaration. We have no room for deceit. Public trust is the foundation of our existence. Publishers that once fiercely bid for Meghan's memoir, marketed as the story of America's bride in the British monarchy, now unanimously withdrew, calling it an ethically misguided investment. Things only worsened with the formal announcement from the Crown the title of Duchess of Sussex was officially revoked from Meghan Markle. All royal privileges, from representing the monarchy at international events to the use of royal insignias and the legal protections exclusive to royal members, were stripped away. Legally and socially, Meghan was now reduced to an ordinary citizen tainted by one of the most serious fraud scandals in modern royal history. Media experts, journalists, and political commentators didn't hesitate to call it the greatest unmasking of the 21st century. Veteran broadcaster Piers Morgan, who had long criticized Meghan publicly, spoke bluntly. At last, the truth has prevailed. Meghan didn't just lie to a family, she lied to an entire nation. And now it's time Britain reclaims its dignity. Even U.S. media, typically more lenient toward Meghan as an American citizen, no longer held back. From the New York Times to CNN front pages carried a single jarring headline: betrayal. Public sentiment transformed, shifting from shock to anger to full-blown rejection and contempt. Those who once supported her, who once called Meghan a modern-day heroine, now turned their backs en masse. They deleted past posts, issued public apologies for having been misled. Fan groups on social media dissolved almost overnight. The media momentum reversed with dizzying speed, a modern curse Meghan could no longer control. She had once declared silence is complicity, but now the whole world was speaking and no one stood with her anymore. Meghan, once celebrated as the global symbol of a victim rejected by the monarchy, has now been stripped of all titles and royal standing. When asked about the true biological father of her two children, she gave no response. Meghan simply lowered her head, silent. In that desperate moment, she searched for salvation, her eyes pleading toward her husband, Prince Harry, the man who had once been willing to give up everything to leave the royal family by her side. But now, he simply sat there in silence, unable to meet her gaze, his hands clenched tightly, as if restraining something deep within. Meghan broke down in tears before the royal council, no longer bearing the image of a duchess, no longer with title or power. Only the figure of a woman left utterly alone who had just lost everything: her royal status, her personal honor, and most painfully the trust of the man whose hand she once held when walking away from the kingdom. But this story is far from over. The scandal remains unresolved. Lingering questions continue to hang in the air. Was Prince Harry truly a deceived husband, or was he a silent accomplice who stood behind this grave concealment of the children's bloodline? And perhaps the most agonizing question of all, does Meghan Markle have any chance at redemption? Or will this remain an indelible stain in the history of the Windsor dynasty? We will continue to bring you the latest shocking developments surrounding this case. Don't forget to share this video, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any updates from the turbulent backstage of the British royal family. Thank you for staying with us until the end. And tell us, what are your thoughts on Harry's silence at the very moment Meghan needed him most? Leave your comment below and join us as we turn the pages of a story that refuses to close.